Does Daredevil look more excited than normal? He should. His girlfriend has arrived in the secret sanctuary. Hey statue collectors, so I've got a confession to make. I started collecting comics when I was 5 years old, but when I got to high school, in an effort to be cool, I stopped collecting. Not because I didn't like comics anymore, not because I had outgrown them, but because I wanted to be cool. And back then, collecting comics was not cool. So there was a good 18 months or so where I didn't buy comics. And I have a very good friend named Ty. We had always collected comics together. He continued buying comics in high school. And one day he came to me and he said, Jeff, you're really screwing up. He says, there's this new artist writer on Daredevil named Frank Miller, and he's awesome. He's like transformed the comic completely. There's this great new character, Elektra, and Bullseye's involved, and it's awesome. So he lent me Daredevil 168 to 181, and 182 was just coming out on the shelves at that time. So that tells you I'm kind of old. But anyway, so I read 168 to 181, and as he said, I was pretty much blown away. And that was the beginning of me coming to the understanding that my generation was going to be the generation where comics grew up with us. If you were a Golden Age collector back when comics were coming out in the late 30s, in the mid 1940s, and you picked up a comic 20 years later, it really wasn't all that different. I mean, for example, if you picked up a Superman from 1941 and then read a Superman from 1961, it was still very much targeted towards kids. But if you picked up a Daredevil from 1971 and then you picked up Daredevil 168 or 169, completely different. Frank Miller brought an adult aspect to the series that I had never seen before in a comic. And that would be expounded upon when he got to do Dark Knight, when he did Batman Year One, when he did Elektra Assassin. And that was something that was really amazing to me, that comics could be interesting to me as an adult, even more so really than they were as a kid. And that's what these Daredevil issues did for me. I mentioned it before when I did the review for Daredevil, but my favorite two-page spread in any comic in any year is the two-page spread in Daredevil 181, where Bullseye has struck Elektra with a mortal blow. She's bleeding to death, and she's crawling to Matt, knowing that she's almost certainly going to die and wanting to die in his arms. The two-page spread, there's not a word on those 2 pages. It's just them coming together in her last moments. Completely awesome. Great stuff. So we had the Daredevil PF come out, I think it was in December. And I'm really happy with that piece. I think it's really beautiful. They did a great job on it. Some people don't like the black parts of the costume, but I'm cool with that. So I was eagerly anticipating this piece, and I'm happy to say it's just as good, if not a little better. It's all about the portrait, and we'll get to the portrait when we do close-ups, but they've sort of hit it out of the park. It's been a really good week for Sideshow. People started to receive Rogue, and that too has been received with pretty much universal acclaim. Everything about that statue, even the portraits that people were concerned about with comparisons to Fergie or Angelina Jolie, have kind of been forgotten. Once they received the statue and they saw the portraits, it just became Rogue, and probably the best representation of Rogue that we've ever seen. Some people think it's one of the best PFs that Sideshow's ever done. So first that, and now we have Elektra. A few lucky collectors received this a couple of weeks ago. Apparently Elektra is shipping in batches, and they received a very small batch a couple of weeks ago. So some people, including a couple of reviewers, received theirs already. Many people are getting them this week, but I've seen on the message board and on Facebook, some people have received notice they're getting theirs next week. So there are apparently several batches of this statue. But let's get some close-ups. Okay, starting with the base. When I saw pictures of the base, I thought, wow, that's kind of small. But taking it out of the box, it's surprisingly large. It's 13 inches from side to side. And at its widest point is about 6 inches. That's right here. And it's just shy of 6 inches to where her feet rest, like 5 3/4 inches or so. But it's a nice base with a lot of good detail. It will look good with the Daredevil PF. I'll show them together later. I like that we get a little more of a stained glass window with this piece than we did with Daredevil. Daredevil does have some, but it's just kind of shards. There's not much there. Really nice detail. Okay, her boots. There was a lot of talk about the boots when the first pictures of this piece were shown. That this was kind of an example of the sideshowification of a piece, of a character. It doesn't bother me, just because considering she's an assassin, she's leaping from rooftops, you know, this is more practical. It makes more sense that she'd be wearing this. I remember in Elektra Assassin, the miniseries, she wore like 5-inch heels, which, you know, looked great, but was nowhere near practical. It didn't make any sense. But the detail on these are really amazing, really good. It just doesn't bother me at all. Her boots, in the comic, usually the way she's represented, you know, the boots end here. You don't have all of this. You do have this wraparound here on her upper thigh, usually in the comics. All right, let's look at the portrait, because that's what I always want to see in these videos. And it doesn't disappoint. It's really beautiful. One of the things I always liked about this character, at least in the initial issues in Daredevil, is that there's kind of a sadness about her, because she's not the person Matt knew in college. She's changed. She's an assassin. So, and there's a sadness that, you know, she's back in the same town as Matt, but they can't really be what they were because she's changed. And I get a little bit of that sadness in that portrait. Sideshow continues to do their looking off to the side. This one's a little bit different in that she's looking right. The recent Superman, Wonder Woman, and I think a few others are looking left. I do have a problem with how I'm going to display her with Daredevil. I've got Daredevil right now on this top shelf with Samurai Batman and the XM Moon Knight. And I love how these three look together. I know it doesn't make sense. You've got a DC character in the middle and Marvel characters on each side. But to me, that's kind of the Creatures of the Night shelf. And I think I'm going to have to break that up by bringing Daredevil down to display him with Elektra. So, not quite sure how that's going to work yet, but that's one of my current dilemmas with this new piece. I can tell you that I kind of have an instant reaction to a piece when I unbox it as to whether this is a keeper or something that I could eventually let go. And this is a keeper. This and Daredevil both will stay in my collection for a long, long time. And I can't always say that. The paint app is really good. There might be a teeny bit of overspray. If you can see it there, right there maybe. And then up top here, you can see some overspray. Get a little closer, see that? But I'm not going to let that bother me. It's not that bad. And you can see it, I think you can see it here too. So it's not perfect. But it's not bad. Could be a lot worse. If you're going to move this statue, the magnets are all really good, but I wanted to warn you that there is no magnet here on this piece. It just slots in. So if you're going to move this piece around without taking stuff off first, at least take this piece off, because I'd be concerned that that could drop out easily. This is the regular configuration with the psi. I learned today that the plural of psi is psi. There is no plural version. So let's take a look at the exclusive configuration. Here she is with the katanas. They are metal. See if they're pointy. Nope, not too much. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to show or display her with the katanas or the psi. I think I'll just keep them close so I can switch them out every once in a while. See if I can get close there. Good detail on the gloves and on the handle. Okay, I'm going to switch out the arm. When this piece was first revealed, we didn't know what the exclusive was going to be. And when it was revealed that it was a switch out arm where she can hold out either the katana or the psi, that was kind of a game changer for a lot of people. A lot of people who were on the fence were like, whoa, that looks fantastic. And it made the decision for them to go ahead and pre-order this piece. And it does look great. Takes up a little more room. You don't want that, hanging out where someone's going to be walking by. Otherwise, you're going to have a katana on the floor and somebody not too happy with you. But it makes for some really nice display options. How cool is that? Looks great. So you can use, like I said, either the psi or the katana in this configuration with her holding it out like that. But the sword is more dramatic, I think, if you're using this arm. I wanted to mention one thing about her earrings. They do move. Make sure that you've pushed it out a little bit when you put in the portrait. If you have it like this, it can get in the way, and you'll find yourself trying to force in the portrait and you might snap off that earring. So just make sure it's pushed out a little bit away from her face when you insert that portrait. I just want to give you a tilt up here of the costume from bottom to top. Some really nice detail. I love the difference in texturing, the difference in colors. Looks really, really nice. Love it. Skin tone is really cool. Appropriate for a Someone from Greece. Some people are not crazy about the bangs. I like the bangs. I think they look great. But, you know, it's subjective. Muscle tone is great. Love it. Again, the variation of texturing and color. And one more look at the exquisite portrait. They really nailed it. She has these almond brown eyes that are nice. He's so happy. Here's the happy couple. I'm not sure there are two statues that have ever needed to be together more than these two. They really complement each other. It's practically a diorama. It's not, of course, but I can't imagine owning one without the other. Just beautiful. So that's Electra. I'm so glad that she met my expectations. I suspect she'll probably meet yours as well if you have this on order. If you're still on the fence, I should tell you that it is low stock remaining on the Sideshow site. So get off the fence, man. I think it's time to hit that button, place that order. If you're outside of the US, I know you get hit by those import fees and ridiculous fees. So you might want to go for the collector's edition. But if you're in the States, spend that extra 15, 20 bucks, go for that exclusive, get that extra arm, get those katanas, because it makes for some really cool display options. So I'm going to be figuring out how to display her with Daredevil right after I finish this video. I'll let you know how that goes. I'll post some pictures on Facebook so you'll see what I figured out what to do. Comic-Con's coming up. Believe it or not, I think we're only about 6 weeks away from Comic-Con in San Diego. I'm super fired up about that. I'm sure Sideshow will have some surprises for us. The only negative is I don't know if they're going to have any Prime 1 pieces this year. They're having their little kerfuffle, and hopefully they'll get that worked out. I don't have any inside knowledge, but they're certainly not posting any new Prime 1 pieces on the Sideshow site, so they probably aren't going to be promoting things like the Bermejo Joker in San Diego. I hope they will. I'd love to see that in person. But I don't know if they're going to have anything or not. Tweeterhead will be there. I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring. I heard they're going to have some surprises. And then there's some other companies. I think Gentle Giant is there as well. So can't wait for Comic-Con. But anyway, I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please comment. I'd love to hear what you think of this awesome new piece, or maybe you don't like it, but I would like to hear that. So I'll see you on Facebook. I'll see you on the message boards. Oh, my website, www.detective27.com. If you haven't seen that yet, I have some statues for sale. I have some comics for sale. If that interests you, take a look, detective27.com, and I will see you at a convention near you. Have a great night. Take care.